对不对？也到了星期六，这个礼拜你们有做了什么东西？是不是很忙？还是有很多东西做？其实我每一个礼拜呢，我觉得我的周末是很愉快的，因为可以跟你们讲话，然后还有观众来看我，所以很开心。但是拜一到拜五就很多东西做，但是也是没有办法，因为要做工嘛，对不对？但是如果没有工作，就好像哎呀要做什么，对不对？每一天就觉得，但是有些人他们是很早就退休了，对不对？退休，然后退休就要做什么呢？对吗？其实我的行业呢是你可以教书教到很老的，因为你看那些好像外国的那些老师啊，还是大学的教授啊，他们也是教到很老的。呃，我有看，我不是跟你们说这几个礼拜呢，我很有兴趣那个 Netflix 的有一个它好像一个纪录片，对不对？它每一个礼拜也是有讲不一样的话题的，所以我就看到有一个那个他们的大学的那个教授呢，也不，我特地的穿这个衣服就要跟这个后面的香蕉这些东西，对，然后那个我有看到一个那个大学的那个教授呢，其实他是好像有一点残障的，但是他也是在那边去发表，然后我就觉得哇，因为他好像残障的，现在我们有看那个残奥会，对不对？那个残障的那个奥运，所以就 Hello，我看到你，早上好，有没有吃了早餐？还没有，我听不到你讲话，应该你的那个没有开。对对，所以我就说，其实我看到他们在好像美国的那些大学呢，他们也有很老的那些好像他们在研究一点东西，还是现在是研究那个疫苗，对不对？那个第三支的那个疫苗，看有没有可以打第三支。其实我也有看到很多，那些他们那边的人呢，他们不要打疫苗，一直也不要打，因为应该他们知道，好像他们怕，好像他们老的时候会有副作用啊，还是什么东西。其实那些人，他们去拿牌，他们讲说我们不要打，我们不要打。然后其实他们是有很多学历的，他们知道这些东西，应该他们自己的疫苗太快，然后他们知道如果呃有后遗症，所以他们就打死也不要打疫苗。然后就他们你们有看到新闻吗？他们拿那个牌就说我们不会打疫苗，你们怎样去拉我们去，我们也逼我也不要打疫苗。其实这个礼拜也是有很多的故事，对不对？有很多新闻，每一个礼拜也是有很多新闻。这个礼拜呢，我就有看那个什么，那个残障的那个奥运，因为在那个抖音有很多那些短短的那个 video，对不对？就看了他们比赛跑啦，还有他脚车什么，哇！我看到他们我就觉得哇哦，其实我有两个手两个脚，但是他们比我很快，就觉得哇，他们真的是很好料，因为怎样去搭脚车，有的他们的身体就是一般不了。 所以我就看哇，他们也是可以踏脚车踏得很快，然后有的是比跑的那个，他们几乎是没有脚的，他的脚是好像那个东西这样子，也可以跑得很快，所以我觉得哇，真的是，我觉得我们全部是很幸运，因为我们有2个手、2个脚。对，看到他们就哇，他们真的是有那个精神去比赛，然后他们也是有不停的去挑战自己，对不对？所以今天我们要讲的故事不是故事，今天我们要讲的话题呢，就是动力。Yes, 动力 motivation. Yes, motivation. 然后如果有时间呢，我们就可以谈一谈，就是teamwork. Yeah, teamworks. So 对，今天我们会谈这个2个东西，但是我们还没有谈的时候呢，我就要给你们刷一下你们的那个，记录一下你们今天有上课，对。OK, yes，请把这个 QR code 扫描。Thank you very much for recording your attendance and welcome you to the class today. Okay. Thank you very much for recording your attendance. And of course, yes, today we'll be talking about some topics related to motivation. Yeah, motivation, and also we will cover topics on teamwork. Yes, so before we start the topic on motivation, let's just do a little bit of a recap on what we discussed in the last class. So in the last class, we talked about a lot of things related to emotions and moods. And we also talk about how emotional intelligence plays an important role in the workplace. I also uploaded a new book in our LMS. I will show you where. So why I actually uploaded this book is because I believe that this will come in very handy in future if you face any problems with your staff, if you face any difficulties in managing them because of certain emotional related issues, then you can go back and read this book and of course try to regulate your emotions and see how you can manage it more effectively and try to find an appropriate approach to manage these emotions. And many times we might feel different types of emotions, for example, angry, frustration, tired, and we tend to feel very demotivated in what we do, especially when it comes to uh, certain problems that you face in the workplace, certain decisions that you have to make, and this might affect how we feel for the whole day in our workplace. So, this book is coming from the Harvard Business Review publisher, and in fact I bought this book, so I just want to share with all of you. The book is entitled Emotional Intelligence Happiness. Yes, so you can actually go and download the book over here if you're interested. Let me show you where it is. So yeah, the book is here. It is Emotional Intelligence Happiness. So you can click on it and yeah. So in fact, it talks a lot about how how do we actually find, it's actually a series of books. It talks about happiness, resilience, empathy, and mindfulness. So this four books is coming under the topic of emotional intelligence, happiness. And I find this very interesting because I don't really read other types of books except for this kind of self-improvement and motivational books, because um, I find this very useful when I encounter any issues in my life. Yes. So I always find that we also talk about this topic before on happiness, right? How do we derive to happiness? How do we find happiness in our life? How do we find happiness in what we do, in our jobs, and in our profession? So, in this series of books, basically, it covers a lot of the human side of us, and it comes from the contribution of a number of people who have an experience in a very meaningful experience in all these areas. Yeah, so it's very interesting. And the first part is talking about happiness. Yes, so that's why I share the pursuing the right to become happy in life, pursuing a lot of happiness. All of us wants to be happy, but of course, they came to a conclusion by Jennifer Moss that happiness isn't the absence of negative feeling. So, the way she looks at happiness is that uh, we still feel sad at some point of time. We still feel sad. It's not that there's no negative feelings. Yeah, so you can read about her story about how her husband actually had certain illnesses, and when her family had this crisis, they were all very emotional, and that is how she wrote and contribute this part of happiness in this book. Yeah, there are also quite a number of different people that talks about being happy at work. Yeah, we need to be happy at work. And then this guy is very interesting. He talks about the science behind the smile. Yeah, so why smiling is very important. Yeah, and what is the science behind the smile? Yeah, it's very interesting as well. And then there's also other authors that contributed to the power of small win. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't have to be a big win. It can also be a small win that would make a difference in terms of your emotions. Yeah, so this part is on the power of small wins, and then we also talk about some of the interesting things over here, creating sustainable performance. How do you perform consistently and to make sure that this would actually help you in your career development? Yeah, so, and we can also develop as individuals in our workplace. So this is about creating sustainable performance. And yeah, I think there's a lot of pages of this book whereby you can also take a look at it. So I hope you can benefit from it. You might find it useful when you really need to read up something on emotional intelligence. Yes. So yeah, you can go and download it. And also, just a reminder to all ladies and gentlemen, in fact, this week is actually week 7. So for the group assignment report, the report submission will be on the 4th of September. Okay, on the 4th of September. So please take note that the group assignment report submission is on the 4th September. So only the group leader will do the submission, all right, for the group assignment report. Yes, so the group leader will submit the file. Please make sure you check your draft first before you submit the final report. All right, so the individual report submission will be on the 13th of September. Yeah, so thanks to Zen, I already obtained the class listing. So I know which group belongs to which group. So I'm able to assign the marks once I have completed all the marking. All right, so you will have a due date coming up, which is on the 4th of September, 5 p.m. to submit your group assignment. All right, so here's just a gentle reminder to all ladies and gentlemen. You need to submit your group assignment in one complete PDF file, or Word file is also fine. Yeah, but usually PDF is the one that allows a very clear. I believe that the layout and everything, it looks better on a PDF. So please make sure that you submit in a PDF file, and also name your file according to your group number. For example, group one, then the file name is group one. Yeah, so that would actually enable me to is my job. Yes, so thank you very much for your cooperation, and I hope to receive all your group assignment by the 4th. If you need additional time, please let me know, and we're able to make the adjustment from there. All right, so that is on the group assignment. And for the individual case study, it is due on the 13th of September on 5 p.m. Yeah, so that is for the individual case study. So uh, that is a little bit of updates on our group assignment and individual case study. So any question? Hmm. Okay, interesting. So yeah, I'm sure all of you are actually busy working on your group assignment when you're free. All right. So yeah, thank you very much for all the efforts, and I'm sure it will be rewarded. Yes. So we will move on to our discussion today just to do a little bit of recap. So in the last class, we talked about emotions and moods, and we also talked about something interesting about moral emotion. Moral emotions is emotions that have moral implications because of our instant judgment. Like I said, many researchers are also interested to find out why reputable people, famous, prominent figure of an organization, they can commit crimes like corruption, cheating, and all that. Because by right, each of us we have moral emotions. Yeah, moral emotions guides our behavior. Basically, it tells us that this is wrong and you should not do it. Yeah, and it tells us that you should not basically do this, because each of us we have an instant judgment of the situation, and we know what is right and what is wrong. So that is why uh, we need to actually listen to our moral emotions. Each of us we definitely have a moral emotions. All right, so let me just hold on. Yeah, I need to take a screenshot of our class every time. So let me just let me just take a screenshot very quickly, just to prove that I have classes to Masa. Yes, so I need to take a screenshot. Let me just take a screenshot very quickly. So, as we move along today, we will try to move slightly a little bit faster because, like I mentioned, this class today is our seventh lesson together. So, as you know, for this course, we have 11 lessons, right? 11 lessons. So, we will try to move slightly a bit faster today, and so that we can cover all the curriculum in this module by week 11. And also, you will have your final exam uh, by then. Yeah, so in a way, we still have some time, but of course, I also need to ramp up a little bit faster so that we cover all the essential topics in organizational behavior. All right, so we will move on now. And in the last class, like I said, emotions are very important, and there are six essentially universal emotions. For example, ranging from anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust, and also surprise. Yes. So we also differentiated what is the meaning of emotions and moods. So emotions are very specific. Remember, I show all of you the video that someone is throwing the computer. So that is very action oriented. Yeah, so we call that as emotions because it happens very quickly. Yeah, it happens very quickly. And when a staff punches another guy in the office because of very angry. So that is basically an emotion. But if we contrast that to moods, we call moods as something that is unclear. It's often general. Sometimes you just had a poor sleep quality and you did not wake up very fresh. You felt this wasn't a day for me, and you just feel like you don't want to do anything. Yeah, so basically, we call that as a mood because it's very general, but you can classify them whether it's a positive mood or it's a negative mood. And most of the time, moods actually occur in our mind. It's cognitive in nature. Yeah, it's just in you, it's just here, and you just don't feel like doing anything. So that is described as your moods. But both of these come under the broad category of affect. Yeah, affect is actually a range of feelings. Yeah, we have different types of feelings that people experience, and we experience a lot of feelings as individuals. We have different emotions, and we also have different moods. And of course, how this topic has emerged in the workplace is because we work together with a lot of people, right, in an organization. And at some point of time, we might also have a bad mood. At some point of time, we might also feel very angry because of certain reasons that has impeded our performance. So that is why in organization behavior, we also look into the importance of emotional intelligence. Yeah, because as we move along in this topic, we talk about emotional labor. Yeah, so we talk about emotional labor, and emotional labor is basically what your employer wants you to display on your face when you are working. Yes, we do expect an air stewardess to look friendly, to look very happy when receiving the customer. Mm, we expect someone at the funeral parlor to look very sad, a very solemn mood. Yeah, we don't expect someone at a funeral to be very happy. So, emotional labor means it's the employee's expression, yeah, of an organizationally desired emotions. So, I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you come from different industries, and you know that there are certain requirements on your emotions when you're working. So we have different types of emotions. We have the felt emotions, which means how you feel inside. Yeah. Are you really happy doing that? Are you really happy serving your customers? Or is it just a display emotion? Are you displaying it and it's because of your work purposes? So, of course, organizational behavior also look into cognitive and emotional dissonance. So there's many people who said that you need to love your job. You need to love what you do. Because if you don't love what you do, you don't have the passion, there will be many times you feel very bad inside because you don't like what you do. You don't like to show a happy face to customer, and yet you're in the customer service job. So in long term, if you feel this kind of unhappiness, it might actually cause you to have a job burnout, which means you feel very tired after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years doing the same thing. So there will also be lower job satisfaction. So in a way, there's always a saying that love your job, love what you do. Yeah, then it can actually help you to improve in your work life satisfaction. Yes. So I heard there's something over there. Let me just see if there's anything in the chat box. Yes, I think there's something there. Let me see what is it. 最后一节课了，还没有，好快，还没听过。对对，我们讲的很多东西就关于人与人的关系，然后还有性格，还有态度，就真的是讲到不会没完没了。对对，但是没问题。还有现在是第七嘛，对不对？还有上个礼拜还是4个礼拜，对，可以听，还可以聊聊。对对，其实这个我觉得这个organizational behavior 呢，它是蛮实用的，因为你不管你是读什么，还是你是做什么行业，也是有关于有人的，就有这些的东西会产生。对对，所以就蛮实用的。你们可以呃呃过了这个课程的话呢，你们可以回头去想一想，do a little bit of reflection，你觉得其实他讲的东西对对对，就很好了，因为你就会觉得好像有用，对，所以所以我就说我没有什么读，好像很多别样的书，我就会读很多书，就关于人与人的之间的关系。因为不是说要教这个课程就要读这样子的书，但是我觉得我很有兴趣，因为什么每一个人就会有不一样的态度，然后还有情绪，还有这些东西就会产生了很多的，有时候会有很多不一样的意见啊，然后会吵架啊，为什么会有这样子的东西？我觉得这些东西是对我自己也是蛮有用的，因为呃我不是 I'm not perfect right I'm not perfect so 我觉得有一些东西我就可以去理解，然后就可以调整一下，对，调整一下，然后可以帮助到我做工的方式啊，然后可以帮助到我跟别人的关系呀、跟老板的关系呀、就会比较好一点，对不对？你们同意吗？对，所以就我会有一个兴趣去读很多很多书，就是关于emotions 啊，关于 happiness，关于什么是动力，对，对对，我觉得我可以很快去吸收，因为我就想想看，每一天我做什么东西，为什么会这样子，就可以去调整一下。啊，yes. So yeah, and in the last class, we also talk about some of the good things about emotions and moods. Basically, it can help us in creativity. Yeah, so a positive mood can actually increase flexibility, openness, and creativity. Yeah, so that is why there are many companies that also design their office very beautiful because it kind of helped employees to feel very positive when working in a very nice office. Imagine our office looks like Starbucks. Yeah, so it's like you can have free coffee, you can have free food. So yeah, it can actually help to increase the positive mood in us. And with that, companies hope that the employees can become more creative and the managers can also make better decision. Yes. And um, it also helps in many ways. For example, motivation. Yeah, when there is a positive manager, you can see that they can help to motivate the staff. And when you are in a positive mood, you can also negotiate well. Negotiating well for more resources and negotiating with your bosses, negotiating with your staff. So, emotions can actually affect the quality of negotiation when you're in a bad mood. Yeah, when you send someone that is very negative, yeah, whatever that you tell this person is always no, 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 I can't do it, no. So that can actually affect the way they negotiate with other people. So in a way, emotions play an important role to enable success in negotiations. And you can also see that in terms of leaderships, emotions are very important because we expect a leader when they provide speech. They are very confident, they are very positive about the company's visions and directions. So the followers will tend to follow the directions of the leader, right? So emotions are definitely important. We always expect our leaders to appear very calm, very confident about the direction, very confident about the success of the company. So emotions are also very important to the top organizational leaders. And last but not least, we also talk about emotions in customer service. So, customer service is very important when it comes to influencing repeat customer. So, I always regard myself as partly customer service because I also need to deal with a lot of students. I need to respond to their inquiries. So, customer service is also part and parcel of my role as a lecturer. So because I need to actually communicate to different types of customer, and sometimes I also feel that certain questions are very are very different because different people have different understanding ability. So at some point of time, I also try to tell myself that I need to be patient and I need to respond in a very well mannered way. Yeah, because there are sometimes we might also feel very frustrated. They're asking the same thing over and over again. Yeah, so but again, I always tell myself that we need to remember why are we existing in this organization and what is my role in this profession. And when I think about that, I know what should I react to my customers. Yes. So in a way, I there's a saying that emotions are very contagious. So when people see that you are happy, they will also feel it. Yeah, it's like a positive vibes. And when you are sad, the others will also feel it. Yeah, when you feel unhappy about something or something happened to you, then it can actually translate from your expressions that you're not feeling happy. Yeah, so that's why emotional contagion means that emotions can be very catching. Yeah, people can catch your emotions. I think especially all of you, ladies and gentlemen, you have been seeing me for the past 7 weeks, so you know that how I feel every time. Yeah, and you can also catch my emotions. Yes, and of course, I try to also remind myself that work-life satisfaction is very important. We need to be happy of what we do, and that is how we can translate it to a life satisfaction as well. Yeah, so that is why emotions and moods are important. And of course, when emotions and moods gets out of the way, it gets serious. For example, like an angry employee, there will be many issues that happen at work. For example, negative emotions. Some employees just punch another guy in the workplace, or taking out a knife and trying to harm himself. So when things like that go out of the way, it can actually affect safety and injury as well. Yeah, so don't do any dangerous work when you're in a bad mood. And of course, the last part is we talk about emotions. They are a natural part of a workplace. Yeah, all of us, we have emotions. And when we talk about a good management, it doesn't mean that there's no emotions. Yeah, good management will definitely have emotions, because we are all different individuals and we live together in a workplace and trying to contribute for a company. Each of us, we have our own values, we have our own personality. Yeah, so that is why it is inevitable for a place not to have any emotions. It is how we regulate these emotions, which means we control our emotions just to make sure that everything is still under control. Yeah. And of course, as managers, we need to provide feedback to our employees. Most of the time, we would like to provide a positive feedback, right? You are good, you're excellent, you're outstanding. So that can actually help to increase the positivity of your employees. And it is good for companies to hire people with positive mood. Yeah, it is good because it can help you to deliver the work effectively. And of course, in the service sector, the positive emotions are very important to improve the customer service and also loyalty customer. So your role of emotions and moods can actually help you to understand yourself more effectively, and also you're able to predict your workers' behavior more accurately. So this is what we have actually discussed in the last class about emotions and moods. So today we want to talk about the topic of motivation, which is also one of the important topics in organization behavior. Because as we move from attitude, okay, as we move from attitude, we look into understanding personality, we also look into perception, we also look into emotions and moods. So these are the ways how we can actually understand an individual more effectively. So the second part of the course, actually we want to look into how we can go together as a unit, as a group of people to contribute to the organizations more effectively. So in chapter 7, we look at motivating people. How can we motivate our staff? How can we motivate our groups? And how can we motivate the organization as a whole? So I'd like to ask all of you a question. What do you think is motivation? Yeah. What is motivation to you personally? And what motivates you to work? Yes. So maybe you can provide me some thoughts and opinions of what motivates you to work. Maybe you can type in the chat box. 什么是动力？为什么你们要去做工？ What motivates you to money? Yeah, money, family. Yes, money and family. So that is your motivation. Mr. Ho, yes, kids. Yeah, we have people relying on us, right? Yeah, we have kids, so we need to go to work. If we don't work, then what are they going to eat? Yes. My motivation, I define motivation as very relevant in daily aspects of our life. I see motivation in many areas. For example, we in terms of dieting, it requires a lot of motivation. In terms of achieving a good grades in the course, we need to have the motivation. In terms of sports, we need to have motivation. So many things that requires a lot of motivation. And besides Mr. Ho, anyone would like to add in anything on motivation? 什么是动力呢？为什么你要去做工？还是你是没有东西做，然后要去做工？还是觉得自己要有一点东西做？Yes. So any other opinions? Anyone would like to add in? Of course, Mr. Ho has given a very good answer. I think that explains all of my motivation as well. Why do I go to work? Yeah, and of course, we can always sit at home, and there will definitely be food to eat, but yeah, we need to find some meaning, right? We need to find some meaning, somewhere to go. I think um, as we graduate, as we move out to the workforce, it's time to find something to do, right? It can also be a small business. 有时候我看到好像那些90后的，他们有一个坏习惯，我觉得是一个坏习惯。他们不要做长时间的工，然后也不要去每一天好像9点去上班，他们觉得很无聊，因为他们要睡到12点。然后他们也是要一个公司，就是很美美的公司，可以在那边睡，好像 Google 的 office，然后也要很多钱，所以很多好像我的学生呢，他们就去创业，他们就好像有的他们就去学，好像怎样去做蛋糕啊，然后就自己开一个小小的店，不是在那个店，是在网上就开了一个店，因为我觉得我们马来西亚的那个90后，他们很喜欢用那个抖音啊，还是用那个 TikTok，还是用那个 Facebook，然后就用那边就给好像顾客去下单，然后他们就做蛋糕，有的是好像做的蛮不错，有的就卖那个中国的 snack，有，他们卖那个中国的好像零食，对，零食，也是在网上，他们就放他们的东西在那个 Shopee 里面，就还是 Lazada，就好像做那个网卖这样子，然后有的就开那个直播就现在就卖那些 frozen food 就是那个 frozen food 怎样讲 frozen food 那个冷冻的那个冷冻食品，对，那个冷冻食品，因为现在就很多人就疫情嘛，对不对？就不要出门，就这些冷冻食品呢，就有很多人买，对，所以有我的学生也是做这个冷冻食品，然后有的就卖口罩啊，N95 N99。yeah，有的就卖那个枪，那个枪就是 sanitizer gun，yeah，所以就种种不一样的，因为他们就觉得好像我做这样子的工呢，就是很 绑死，就不能做他们喜欢的东西对，所以他们就去网卖啊，还是开直播啊，就是这样子就做工啊。有的学生呢，他就比较美的呢，就是女孩子比较美的呢，他们就上那个好像有一个平台呢，在 Instagram 里面，就那些就跟那个好像宅男啊，还是在家的小男孩啊，他们就讲话，他们是讲话不了，但是我不知道他们做什么东西，一个一个一个一个钟呢，他们讲话就有几十块这样子，对，就是跟你们讲话不了。然后他们每一天就会拍他们的照片，就是美图的照片，美的真的是很美的。然后他们当然是有穿的比较性感一点，然后就拍他们的照片啊，然后就有很多那些宅男啊还是什么，就要跟他们讲话。他们跟我讲，这个是我的工then 我就讲，哈，你们读书读了这样多，就在这里拍这个照，然后穿这样子就可以赚钱的吗？然后他讲，Yes, of course, and I can maintain my spending。然后几开心的他们，然后我就跟他们讲，如果你们就觉得这个是你们的 life satisfaction，就是很好啊，这样，因为他们还很小啊，我觉得他们是很小，然后就是做这样子的工就。我觉得是没有什么意义，因为你们读书读到什么文凭什么文凭，然后就出来就在这个，然后他们会开直播的，对，他们会开直播，然后今天就讲，他们讲的那个话题也不是有什么话题，但是好像今天你觉得我美不美呀？然后你觉得我的衣服美不美呀？然后就去换几个衣服这样子，然后也有很多很多很多很多的，好像男生就跟他们讲话，so 那个平台呢就会给他们钱，然后我觉得这个也是一个工作吗？但是这个是那个女生呢，这个女孩子就她的脸就比较美呢，比较美，她就可以赚这个钱。你们觉得好吗？这样子，你们觉得这样子的过，他们是大学生就出来做这样子的工作，嗯，我觉得他们是要赚很快的钱，对不对？很快，然后就没有什么意义。对我是没有什么意义，但是对他们，it's okay，yeah。So 现在他们那个好像90后的，就是很难很难，因为嗯，他们不要绑死，然后就要赚很多钱在很短的时间里面，所以有很多种种的问题，因为他们在网上就这样子拍他们的照片什么，也有很多呃不愉快的事情发生。对对，就要 take care，对不对？要 take care。其实他们也是有家长，但是他们的家长就没有什么留意，我觉得没有什么留意他们的孩子，然后他们的孩子每一天也是在家，然后他的爸爸妈妈就觉得没有问题嘛，每一天也是在家，然后他们就待在他们的房间里面，然后就自己露营什么，就每一天有在家，没有出去。但是他们没有去理解到为什么他们的孩子每一天在那个房间里面。对对，所以我觉得沟通是很重要。哎呀，好像家长跟那个孩子也是要有很多沟通，因为有时候他们整天拍这些东西在网上呢，有很多好像不是不是，好像诈骗集团呢会不是骗色的那个那个集团呢，就可以看到他们的照片， 跟他们 contact，对不对？这样子，如果有这样子的情形发生就不好了，对不对？等一下他们就出去，然后去约会，还是有什么东西？等一下，哎，对，知道吗？女生很怕，对不对？所以，我整天跟他们讲，不要出去，不要约会。等一下出去，你不知道这个男生是什么东西，然后就带你去，就不好了，对不对？其实因为他们好像那个90后呢，他们很纯情的，然后他们你们跟他们聊天什么东西呀，然后他们就很开心有的，然后可以出去约会的这样子。对，我就觉得有一点替他们很怕。Yes, so 现在真的是很多东西看到他们也是有很多不一样，跟我以前的时候就，真的是我觉得，呃，我们是不一样，我是我是老了，他们是他们很多东西也不怕。Yes, so yeah, coming back to our topic, I think thank you so much for listening to me. I shared a lot about my students, and in fact, I always look back at how I was when I was their age, and yeah, it's quite different. Probably it's because of the different age group. Yeah, so in a way, I hope that they're always safe. Yeah. So let's come back to our lesson over here. Yes, I want to talk about motivation. Yes, so in fact, if we look at motivation, it is the process that looks into individuals' intensity, direction, and persistence. Yeah, so uh, motivation basically you can look at it in three items. There are three items that explains motivation. So we talk about an individual's intensity, direction, and persistence. Intensity, it explains how hard a person actually tries. For example, you want to achieve your target, right? If you're in a sales industry, you have to achieve target. So how hard you actually try to achieve your target. Yeah. And that explains what is intensity. And of course, we also look into the direction of your behavior. So if your direction is towards the organization benefits, then we can say that you are very motivated to achieve the sales target because you are helping the organization. And that is the direction that your company wants you to go. Yeah, so that is the meaning of direction. And the last one is persistence. So when we talk about persistence is how long you maintain your effort. So 这个就是坚持 persistence, right? So which means that if you maintain your effort to achieve the sales target for a very long time, so we can say that you are a persistent person, and in a way you are also very motivated to achieve your sales target. So of course, many organizations they use sales target, they use certain numbers to motivate their staff, and then at the end of the year, they will bring all the staff for a holiday. Yeah, because we have surpassed our target, we have achieved our target, right? So that is a way to motivate the staff because the staff knows if they achieve their targets or they surpass it with 30%, 40%, they are entitled for a holiday. Yeah. And of course, this is the effect of motivation. But motivation sometimes may also turn otherwise. It may also be detrimental to an organization because if we set a very outrageous target, for example, if let's say you are a bank officer, you need to open up 30 accounts in a month. Yeah, 30 accounts, 30 fresh accounts with funds coming in. So these kind of motivation or targets may be a little bit difficult for the staff to achieve. And when the company sets this kind of, I would say it's a very outrageous, it's a very overwhelming target, the staff may actually resort to do something that is against their moral emotions. For example, using fake accounts or reporting fake numbers just to make sure that they secure their position in the company. So, motivation, in a way, it can be very positive. It can also be very negative for an organization. So, setting goals is important. Setting difficult goals is also must be handled with care. Yeah, you cannot set something that's totally out of the reach. And this might lead the employee in doing something that is unethical, something that is against their moral emotions because they need to achieve the crazy target that you have given to them. So that's why we will also talk about the importance of goal setting in this topic of motivation later. So, in this topic of motivation, we talk about a lot of researcher. Yeah, many years ago in the 1970s, in the 1960s, they tried to find out what is the best way to motivate a group of people, what is the best way to motivate an individual, because they really wanted to know what is it that individuals are looking for when they work in a company. Yeah, and with this type of knowledge, it can actually help a lot of managers to take their teams to greater heights, to take their team to become a productive team. So in 1960s and 1970s, they already wanted to know what is actually a motivating factor for an individual. So in this lecture, now onwards until the end, I will talk about motivation theories. So, as we all know, theories is something that is proven, proven by these researchers. And of course, the findings are not conclusive because when we have the early theories, there will be more researchers working on the findings of these theories. So that's why we have the early theory. We also have the contemporary theories, which take into account of the recent individuals' thinking, environment, and many more input which follow up from the early theories. So the first the first man who is interested in motivation is Abraham Maslow. Yeah. So Abraham Maslow is a researcher, he is a psychologist. Yeah, so Abraham Maslow actually he's an American, and in 1943 he already wanted to know what is actually motivation. Yeah, so he classified motivation in a series of needs. Yeah, he says that individuals, we have different types of needs. We have the lower level needs, we have the higher level needs. So that's why he called his theory as the hierarchy of needs. Yeah, when we talk about hierarchy means there is a lower level, there is a higher level. So the lower level needs are actually physiological needs, safety and security needs. And as we move up to the hierarchy, you can see that we have higher level needs like social belongingness, esteem, and self actualization. So, the very interesting thing that Abraham Maslow highlights in his theory is that he says that individuals, we have these needs, and once these needs is fulfilled, we need to have higher level needs in order to motivate us. So, when we already have physiological needs means it's like food, air that we're breathing. So all these are the basic needs is classified in the physiological needs. So once we have this, then we will move on to another group of needs, which is safety and security. So as we already have food, we already have clothing, we already have a shelter, then we tend to move for safety needs. We want to look for a sense of security, which means that in our jobs or in our daily life, we want to have this feeling of security in our relationships with our bosses. We want to know that we are in a safe position. So that's what Maslow found out. And job security is one of the best example of safety security. Yeah, we want to know that our jobs are safe, and we want to know that we will continue to make money from this company so long as the company is continue to operate. So that is the safety security needs that is meant by Abraham Maslow. And as we move up, we will have the need to look for social belonging, which means that we want to be loved, we want to be taken care, we want to take care of others. That is the meaning of social belongingness. So we can see that when there is a disaster, right, when there is a catastrophe, so you can see that each of us, we tend to have this kindness to help other people. Yeah, because we all know that we need to help each other when there is a catastrophe, when there is flood, when there is a disaster. So that kind of feeling is a social belonging feeling, which humans are looking for once we have safety and security and physiological needs. And even when we go to our workplace, we want to feel that people welcome us, right? When someone greets you, good morning, sir, or good morning, you look beautiful today, you feel like you feel very happy, yeah, going into the office. So the social belonging side, it means that you want people to care for you, but you, at the same time, you also want to offer some help when there's something that's happening. Yeah. So that kind of unify you into the organization, yeah, by getting the feeling of social belongingness. And the next one is esteem needs. Esteem needs means after we felt like we belong to each other in an organization, we tend to look for esteem needs, which means that we want to have a sense of control. We want to have face, yeah, face esteem. So in whatever that we do, we need to maintain our professionalism, because it's your esteem needs. Yeah, if let's say you are a CEO, right, in whatever that you say or whatever that you do, you need to maintain the esteem, because you need to have that confidence, you need to have certain dignity. So that means by esteem. And the highest level of needs is self-actualization needs, whereby this needs is different, which means from you, what motivates you might not motivate me. Self-actualization means is the thing that actually complete you, yeah, as an individual. For example, maybe some people in their lives, they want to do bungee jumping because that would complete their life mission. Yeah, so self-actualization needs means it's something that you want to do in your life, something that really motivates you, like having a PhD certificate that can actually complete your entire life education journey. Yeah, so of course, what motivates you might not be applicable to me, because self-actualization needs are very individualized. So Maslow says that once one level of needs is being fulfilled, it no longer motivates. So you have to move up and up in order for you to continue to be motivated in what you do. So interestingly, Maslow is one of the first guys that ever tried to understand what is motivation. So of course, his theory is received a lot of recognition among practicing managers. It's very easy to understand. Um, Many managers used it. However, there are also some weaknesses from the theory, and it hasn't been frequently researched since the 1960s. Yeah, so what Maslow did was pretty, I would say it's pretty early, and there's still a lot of room for improvement when it comes for motivation. So there came the next researcher. Yeah, so the next researcher, his name is Frederick Herzberg. Yeah. So Frederick Herzberg was actually an American. So he did the research somewhere in 1987. So he wanted to know what are some of the factors that would cause a job satisfaction. Of course, he looked into Maslow's theory as well, and he wanted to understand how could Maslow's findings be integrated into his model. So Herzberg, of course, he wanted to know additionally what are some of the factors that can lead to job satisfaction. So he did a research, as you can see on the table over here, about 1,700 events that lead to extreme satisfaction. So he found out that some factors like achievement, the work itself, promotion, responsibility, all these can contribute to extreme satisfaction, which means can make people very happy in their job. And conversely, he found that some of the factors that can make employees very unhappy in their jobs is the policy, the work condition, the relationship with the peer. All these things can lead to extreme dissatisfaction, extremely unhappy. So, from these two findings, he classified them as the satisfier and the dissatisfier. Satisfier factors means is the factors that can make your employees super happy and super satisfied. Dissatisfier means these are the factors that managements must avoid because these factors can make your employees super unhappy. Yeah. So, what he found out is that he opposed the traditional view of job satisfaction because the traditional view of job satisfaction says that you can either be satisfied or you can be dissatisfied in your job. This is the traditional view. It's a very clear cut. So either you are happy or either you are not happy. But Herzberg twisted this traditional view because by viewing at the satisfier factor and dissatisfier factor, he says that this is my view of motivation. So he classified the factors into the satisfier factors, which is the motivator factors, and also the hygiene factors. Hygiene factors are the factors that is related to dissatisfiers. For example, like company policy, supervision, salary, all these things are hygiene factors. So why he put it as satisfiers and dissatisfier? Because this factor, when you give your employees satisfier, they can either be very satisfied in their job, okay, they can either be very satisfied, and if you don't give them, they just have no satisfaction. No satisfaction means what? Which means that i'm I'm not to say not happy, but I'm just not satisfied. Okay, I'm just not satisfied. If you don't give me promotion, I'm fine, but I'm just not satisfied. Okay, so he views the motivator as satisfied and not satisfied. But if hygiene factor, okay, if let's say you don't give your employee salary, that would be really dissatisfied. Yeah. And the complete opposite of dissatisfaction is no dissatisfaction. So he says that if, let's say, you want to motivate your staff, you need to give them the motivators rather than the hygiene factors. Because hygiene factors, the opposite of dissatisfaction is no dissatisfaction, which means that I'm okay, but doesn't mean I'm motivated. Yeah. So if you give me salary, I'm not dissatisfied, but that doesn't mean that I am motivated. So if you give me a promotion opportunity, you give me advancement, you tell me that next year I'm going to be promoted, then I will be very, very satisfied and very, very motivated according to the Herzberg view. So Herzberg says that if you give your staff salary, doesn't mean that they are motivated. They're just not dissatisfied, which means that they're okay, but they're not motivated because these are not the factors that will lead to motivation. The factors that will lead to motivation is related to the motivators, which means it's the work itself. For example, advancement, promotion opportunity, all these are the factors that's able to push the employees to be motivated. So he contrasted the view of the traditional view of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. So he says that even though all of you get your salary, doesn't mean you're motivated. You're just not dissatisfied. So which means that we still never motivate the staff. So what Herzberg says that you need to give your staff some motivation in the work itself. You need to highlight the work itself. For example, give them promotion, job redesign, advancement. All these factors will lead to satisfaction and motivation. So that is how Herzberg split the traditional view into motivator and the hygiene factor. So he said money doesn't mean motivation. Money means that you're just not dissatisfied. Yeah, so that is how he view it. But of course, his theory also comes with a series of criticisms because he says that at that point of time, you just did about 1,700 responses. Doesn't mean that it represents everybody. So there was no overall measure of satisfaction as well. So they were not too happy, and of course, this new guy actually came up with his theory. So David McClellan rebutted on the theory of Herzberg, and he says that I think to motivate someone, you need to give them three important things. One is achievement, second is power, third is affiliation. So you need to tell them that if you do this, you have 50-50 chance to be successful. Yeah, you need to give them a standard in order for you to motivate your staff. So those people who take this opportunity, they are the ones that wants achievement. And he says that this works for individuals. Yeah, because he did a little bit of study on the previous research, Maslow's and also Herzberg. And he says that you need to give them certain ability to make decision. Yeah, you need to give them some control, some power to make decisions. And last but not least, you need to give them certain friends, certain relationship at work that can actually help them to be motivated. So McClellan actually looked at it as achievement, power, and affiliation, which means relationship. People want to be respected. People want to be loved in the workplace. I mean, if you're looking at your boss, right? If your boss is someone that is so respectable, so friendly, I'm sure the staff is very motivated to work for this kind of boss. So that's what McClellan also thought about it. And that's why his theory had the best support among all the early theories. It is more commonly applied. So we will have a short break now before we continue to the contemporary theories. All right. So we will have a short break for 20 minutes and then we come back and we discuss about contemporary theories. Okay.
You fell right into my hands. I'll have you and hold you till I can't. You were bright and magic eyed, far from home, but I was on your side and let you fly. So that's goodbye, my eager friend. I'd have thought that we would have another morning, but so it goes, and so it ends. All that I can do is hold a home within me. Oh, do you know I cried until I thought that I could die. Tell us what you see. Soaring high above humanity. Do you see me? Oh, so that's goodbye, my eager friend. I'd have thought that we would have another morning, but so it goes, and so it ends. All that I can do is hold a home within me. Oh, do you know I cried until I thought that I could die. Tell us what you see. Soaring high above humanity. Do you see me? Oh, do you see me? Oh, do you see me?
intense fighting is once again bringing suffering to Afghanistan. It has forced almost.
Okay. Alamak, not enough. Oh shit. Okay, never mind. Alright, so what we do, same thing, we on the fan. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, wrong side. Okay, can you feel the wind? Okay, maybe you still lean into the camera. Lean in, hit down.
Hit down?
Yeah, hit down a bit. Let me see from here, different angle. Hit up a bit. So one side you can see the swell has really gone down. This one is even faster, within 40 seconds. Wow, how do you find it? Wow, this one very fast eh. So now you know the secret already, you cannot apply too much. Wow, this is amazing, man. Wow, give me a round of applause. So you didn't regret to come out here to do the demonstration, right? Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, just want to let you guys know, actually, this product works not only for eye bags, but as well as for all the fine lines, wrinkle. And you see the fine lines on the forehead, right? Those lines, you can actually apply on them as well. Alright. Now we have a lady.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love falling in love with you. Hi, friends. Happy 2017. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday time. I know that I did. I spent a lot of time with my family, and it was wonderful and magical, and I ate everything in the world. Now I'm back home trying to function like a normal, responsible human being again. That was Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis. And I started playing the song a couple months ago, and I started crying. I don't know why. It just felt so something to me that it just I'm really failing on the word front here, but it moved me, and so I wanted to share it with you. This is actually one of my favorite covers I've done in a really long time, and I'm very excited because I am releasing it today with a new covers album. The Living Room Sessions Volume 3 is out today on iTunes and Spotify, so you can get this song and you can get a bunch of other songs that I've previously done. Some of my favorites, actually, like All I Want with Kate McGill, and Say Something, and Shut Up and Dance, and Burn with my sisters, and Riptide I did with Jessie. But it's out today, so if you
Hello. Hi everyone. Yes, I'm back from a short break. So is everyone back? I hope you like the song. Can't help falling in love with you. Yeah. So I think today is a good day. So we will listen to some slow songs. Yes, slow songs. Maybe it can help us to regulate a bit of our emotions. We will feel a little bit more comfortable and to continue our daily activities. Most importantly, for today, I think you have a string of classes. So, yeah, you need that to continue to regulate yourself, regulate your emotions so that you can complete the day with all your classes. Yeah. So is everyone back? All right, so no problem. We will continue with a little bit of our discussion over here on the self-determination theory and goal-setting theory. So, like I mentioned, that goal-setting theory is very relevant in organizations because if we talk about the sales industry, the insurance industry, all these requires the employees or the managers to achieve, even in banks, yeah, in certain banking industry as well, there are certain products that they have to sell. So there will be certain goals. So when we talk about goal setting theory, in fact, it began with the idea of self determination theory. So the goal setting theory was actually derived from the self determination theory. And it is also one of the contemporary theories which take into account the recent happenings to people in the workplace and also their situation. So, what is actually the self determination theory? So, when we talk about self determination, means how determined are you in doing something? Yeah, how motivated are you in fulfilling or completing the task? So, self determination theory says that individuals we like to have a control of our action. We like to be able to decide in our jobs. So, self determination theory is actually created by Daisy and Ryan. Yeah, these two are the authors of self-determination theory. At some point of time, they actually look into proposing the need for autonomy, which means that the need to provide the individuals control in their job. Yeah, so for micromanagers, this wouldn't be applicable because micromanager like to control their staff. So there needs to be some form of flexibility. You need to give your staff some way to have a control of their job. That is what self-determination theory suggests. And also, there are many researchers that look into self-determination theory and develop their own. And one of them is the cognitive evaluation theory. Cognitive evaluation theory looks into a very interesting area because he says that this cognitive evaluation theory says that when someone is paid for work, which means you pay them salary, they feel like it's their responsibility. It's not what they like to do, but it's their responsibility. Yeah, so I think it's very relevant to all of us, right? Sometimes we feel like we are obliged to perform our duties because we are obligated to the company. The company pay a salary, then we have to do it. Like it or not, we have to do it. Yeah, so cognitive evaluation theory says that when you are paid to do your work, it feels like it's something that you have to do. It's not something you want to do. Yeah, so the key thing over here is you have to do it because you're taking the money from the company. Yeah, so should companies continue to be paying the staff? Yeah, that is the question, right? A lot of researchers say, should we pay you more? If we pay you more, is this something that you have to do or is something that you really like to do? But in a way, we are looking at this from the motivation point of view. So the cognitive evaluation theory says that when you pay someone to do it, maybe they may be less motivated because it's not something that they want to do. Yeah, so a lot of researchers continue to add in more knowledge, and sometimes they found out new things they will add into their own theory. So, but researchers actually look into the self-determination theory and says that when you use um, extrinsic reward. What is the meaning of extrinsic reward? Which means, for example, when the staff come early to the office every day in a month, you pay them the early attendance, maybe some a token of appreciation. Then the employee will come early every day because they know that they will get the early attendance appreciation. However, if you take this away from them, then the employee's attendance will not improve because the employee won't get any appreciation. So, do you think companies should continue to give, or don't give? So that's why companies are also having this dilemma whether to use extrinsic reward as a payoff or whether to handle this with care. Because if you take away the early attendance appreciation, sometimes the employee attendance will not improve because there's no more money. So why should I come early, right? So um, that's why self-determination theory says that we need to focus on the work itself. We need to focus on making the job meaningful so that whether there is a reward, there is a payoff, or there is no recognition, the employee continue to be motivated. Yeah. And of course, self-determination theory also says that we need to handle rewards with care because when we give the employee early attendance reward, we need to make sure that we train them to be early, but we also want them to be productive, not just focus on the money itself. Yeah, that is the whole idea of the self-determination theory. And we also look at some organizations propose that to use intrinsic reward as well as external reward, which means apart from money, we should also make the job very meaningful, focus on the job itself, and try to match the skill and the strength of the employee with the job requirement so that the employee finds that there is a meaningful job. Yeah, and this is the intrinsic part of the motivation. And of course, next we look at the goal setting theory. Goal setting theory is created by Edwin Locke. So Edwin Locke is a 1968 American psychologist. He looks into goals. So of course, many companies still use this goal setting theory, like for example, sales, insurance, banking. So the goal setting actually explains that what the employee need to do in order to get the reward, right? To set the goals. So he says that there are different types of goals. We have specific goal, we have difficult goal. Specific goal can increase performance, which means you tell the employee that you need to achieve 30% of sales increase. Specific. When you set a difficult goal, which means something that is very difficult, if it is accepted, it can result in performance. And feedback is very important to motivate the staff. So again, there are also some factors that may influence the goal performance relationship. Why some employee can perform better when you give them the goal? Why some employee cannot? They just let go because they can't achieve the goals. So the factors that influence the goal and performance relationship falls on goal commitment, whether the person is very committed to the goal, and also the job itself, whether it's easy or difficult. And the last one is the culture of the country. So there are some cultures that is more collectivist, which means they focus on group goals. There are some culture that's more individualistic, they focus on individual contribution. So different types of country cultures may influence the relationship between goals and performance. So that's why some employees may be motivated with goals, some employees may not. They don't like it because they can't achieve it. It's so difficult. Yeah. So, of course, when managers wants to use the goal setting theory, you can actually cater to two different types of employee. One is the one with the promotion focus, one is the prevention focus. Promotion focused employee, they would love to have goals, difficult goals. Prevention focus, they would prefer simple goals because they don't want to have any trouble. Yeah, so people actually differ in the way we regulate our thoughts and behavior. So those who want promotion, we give them a difficult goals. Those who want prevention, we give them less difficult goals so that they can continue to fulfill their duties. And of course, because of the goal setting theory, many companies also created a culture which is to boost the performance of their company. One of it is the management by objective concept. Management by objective concept is one of the ways to set goals, but the way they set the goals is by cascading the objective. So we come from a broad organizational objective, then we cascade down to the division and the department and individual. So you can see that this is a huge goal, but it's broken down into smaller set of goals, which is contributed by the division, followed by the department and the individual. So each of them would contribute to the smaller goals at the end that would help the company to achieve the overall organizational objectives. So we call this style of management as the management by objective. Yeah, and this is quite prevalent in high performance culture companies. And as we move along, we also look at the goal setting and ethics. Like I mentioned to you, there are some goals that is totally beyond the reach of the employee. It's not difficult, but it's totally out of the range. So when there is a very complex goals, when employees, in order for them to secure their position, they might forego their ethics, they might forego their moral emotions. So when it comes to setting goals, managers must also handle with care just to make sure that the employees don't commit unethical activities or make unethical choice to achieve a goals that is totally out of their control. So goal setting must be used with caution and care. And of course, we move to the next part, which is Bandura. So Albert Bandura is one of the psychologists that passed away, I think, last month. He is a very famous Canadian psychologist. And what he did in this area is that he contributed to the knowledge of self-efficacy. And this theory is created by Albert Bandura. So Bandura looks at motivation in a way, it says that, a person must be confident. Yeah, you must be confident in performing a task. So in a way, how can you be confident? You need to have experience. You need to see your boss doing it. And if your boss can perform it, why not you? Right? You need to have a role model. And we need someone to convince us that we can do the task. And the last one is someone needs to motivate you, to arouse you, to make you power up. Yeah, so that's how Bandura sees motivation in his self-efficacy theory. So many books also call the self-efficacy theory as the social cognitive theory and the social learning theory. So the Bandura's works is very prominent in the area of self-efficacy because he was the first to find out about self-efficacy and how we can drive an individual to believe that he or she is capable to perform the task. And of course, if we combine goal setting and self-efficacy, each of the theories, they have some form of relationship with each other. Yeah. So when the managers set a difficult goal, yeah, it's a very difficult goal, then you can see that the individual that has the confidence will try to achieve the goals with some form of self-confidence or self-efficacy. Then the individual will set this as the personal goal, and at the end of the day, if they achieve it, then they will have higher levels of job or task performance. So if you put these two goals together, you can see some form of relationship with each other. And of course, self-efficacy theory is very useful for a manager when you need to persuade your staff to do something. So I believe we mentioned this before. It's called the Pygmalion effect in psychology. So when you want your staff to help you to do something, you need to persuade them. So you need to make sure that you communicate to them in a way that that is an expectations. There's an expectations of success. That's something that can come true. So we can see a lot of self-fulfilling prophecy in training programs, motivational programs. All these programs are actually using a lot of Pygmalion effect, yeah, to tell you that if you do well, you're gonna have this Mercedes coming up to you. If you do well, you're gonna have this amount of money. Yeah, so that kind of the form of expectations that they give to us may be very motivating in the psychology point of view. All right, so let me just open up. Yeah, okay, hello, welcome. Hi. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we can see the Pygmalion effect used in many motivational programs or training programs as well. So when a manager actually delivers a very difficult task or a very difficult goal, they should set that kind of expectations that a manager must always say that I believe you can do it. I think you can do it. So that kind of expectations will enable your target to feel like they can achieve it. Yeah, so in a way, psychologically, they will try their very best to achieve it, even though you made that kind of expectations. Yeah, so that is a form of self-fulfilling prophecy that is explained in the early parts when we talk about, if I'm not mistaken, when we talk about perception, we talk about this as well. And of course, there are other researchers that provided some knowledge in terms of motivation as well, not only Bandura. So this area of study called reinforcement theory is actually created by a very famous researcher who is called B.F. Skinner. So usually we call him as Skinner. Yeah, his name is Skinner. So Skinner is an American psychologist somewhere in 1938. Yeah, 1938, right? So he says that he don't really believe in motivation people by setting goals or by giving them the factors of job satisfaction or by fulfilling their needs because he believed that behavior is a function of its consequences, which means individuals are governed by the situation. So we will react accordingly to the situation. And behavior is environmentally caused. So when you look at this situation, you will behave this way. When you look at the situation is bad, you will try to behave well because you know if you do something wrong, you will be punished. So that is the idea of Skinner's behaviorism theory, which has given way to a lot of researchers that continue to work on the management style, to work on the motivations aspects of Skinner's behaviorism theory, because he says that behavior is a function of the consequences. Whatever that you do is because of your behavior. And why you will behave in such a way is because of the situation. So he always believed that reinforcement is important. When you set a new company regulation, when you set a new policy, you must always reinforce according to Skinner because reinforcement can condition the behavior, can set the behavior of your staff. Yeah, like for example, you set a new policy on attendance in the company. So when you say if you are late for 5 minutes, I'm going to deduct your salary. So you must really do it because reinforcement can condition the behavior according to behaviorism theory. And of course, because of reinforcement theory, many people also commented that how can we improve the understanding on a desired behavior of an employee. So Skinner further research and he found out that um, there's this interesting management way. It's called carrot and stick. Yeah, so carrot and stick is a very famous management style which comes from Skinner's behaviorism theory because carrot and stick actually explains what is consist in the operant conditioning theory. So carrot and stick means that if you perform well, the manager should reward you. Yeah, if you demonstrated your outstanding performance, you should be given the carrot, which means the reward. If let's say you perform badly, you know, you failed the company's goals, you fail your targets, you should be punished and you should be given the stick. Yeah, so it says that carrot and stick is a very aggressive management style, but it works in certain conditions because people learn to behave to get something they want. Yeah, if you tell me that I'm going to get 1,000 ringgit if I come to work early every day, I will definitely come to work early because I behave the way my company wants me to behave because I know at the end of the day I'll get 1,000 ringgit. But if there is something that is bad, something that I'll get punished, definitely I won't do it. So that's the whole idea of the carrot and stick management style, which comes from the operant conditioning theory by Skinner. And of course, his theory has proven to be useful in many ways in management style, like I mentioned, carrot and stick. So, of course, other researchers also came in to further add and improve on the theory. So, social learning theory comes from Albert Bandura, the one that we mentioned earlier, and he says that we can motivate people by observation and direct experience. So, he says that he looks from another perspective. He says that people can be motivated by looking and directly experiencing it. So he says that if you want to motivate your staff, you need to look into the brain construction. So our brain is actually very simple. We need to look into what is the influence of the activities. For example, we need to make the activity retain in their brain. We need to make them uh, caught their attention. Yeah, make sure that this thing is attractive, is repeatedly available. And we need to allow the employee to reproduce if you want to teach someone something, right? Um, you need to allow them to reproduce the knowledge. And lastly is to reinforce. So you ask the individual to perform the task to you over and over again to reinforce the new things that you have taught your employee. So, in a way, individuals can motivate and they will learn very well if you provide them all these four things according to the Bandura's theory. So the social learning theory is also very useful in children because children, we always know that they learn through observation and direct experience. So that's why it is called the social learning theory because the social learning theory actually focuses a lot on observation. Yeah, so it's very relevant in parenting, is very relevant in teaching our children because children always learn from direct experience. And because the things that we do actually caught their attention and they remember it very well. And that's why they behave in such a way, how the parents behave, and that is how they learn something. So the social learning theory is very relevant in children. And the next one is expectancy theory. So we are moving from the focus of looking at how we can motivate our staff to how we look into the staff expectations. Yeah, because every staff, when we work in the company, we have our own expectations. So Vroom looked into the expectancies of the staff. Victor Vroom is the creator of the expectancy theory. He's a Canadian. In 1964, he found out that in order to motivate an employee, you need to make them understand three things. Their effort will lead to performance, and their performance will lead to reward by the company, and the reward must be consistent with their personal goals. So you need to illustrate this relationship very clearly to them because every employee we expect something from our effort. You put in your effort in a project, you work hard for this year, you expect that the company will reward you accordingly because this is something that is consistent with your goals. This year, I want to achieve this. And if we find a match between what you do and your personal goals, you will be very motivated to do the task. So that is what Vroom is emphasizing in his expectancy theory. So you can see that this is the relationship between 1, 2, and 3. So as individuals, we can't escape from expecting something. We expect something in what we do. We expect something from the effort that we put in, especially in the workplace. So, this relationship is actually very important because managers must make this very clearly to the staff. Whatever that you do now, you will be rewarded. Yes. So, of course, this can help to motivate the employees. And of course, there are also some questions that arise from this relationship. Yeah, so many employees also start to question, if I give a maximum effort, will it be recognized in my KPI? Is this recorded? Is this recorded in my KPI? So expectancy theory actually help managers to explain why many workers are not motivated and they only do the minimum. When it's 5 p.m., I clock out. That's it. Bye. Yeah. So expectancy theory says that there are many workers that continue to do the same job every day, because they know at the end of the day, I'll just get the same salary as the others, and it's the same thing over and over again. So employees normally ask a few questions. If I put in effort, what will I get? If I get a good KPI, so what? What does it mean? And if I get any reward, is the reward attractive? If you put in the effort for 1 year and at the end of the day they give you a very minimal reward, it is totally unattractive to you and you just forget it. That's why there are so many workers that just do the minimum to achieve whatever that's required in their job. So that is why many employees are not motivated. So this comes to organizational justice, because when employee we expect something, we want to see the return. Is the return attractive or not attractive? When we see the return, we tend to compare. So when we compare, this leads to another new theory which is called the equity theory. Yeah. So John Stacy Adams actually looked into this. He says that we always compare. We compare with our work. We compare with our work. We compare ourselves with our peer. We compare ourselves with other people in the same industry, working in other company. Why working in this company can get so much, but why am I here? So we are always comparing with so many comparisons that we create. So the equity theory says that we will compare ourselves, A, and we will compare A and B. So we will always have our own comparison. We can compare with our colleagues, we can compare with our peers, we can compare with our bosses, we can compare with our family. So there are so many things that we can compare. So whenever there is a perception of inequity, we will normally react in a certain way. Yeah. So if we find out that we exert the same effort, we put in the same effort, but we get less than our colleague, then we feel that we are under rewarded. But if we get more than our colleague, which means we are over rewarded. If we have the same reward, which means is equal, then there's no reaction. Only in these two part, the first part here, we will have reaction. If we are over rewarded, we will all usually keep quiet. It's bonus. Yeah, so we just keep quiet. But when there is under rewarded, what will we do? Usually employee will do a few things. They will become less hardworking because why should I do so much? Or maybe I will use other comparison and we will give ourselves a satisfactory excuse. We say that maybe we compare to the right person. I may not make as much money, but compared at my age, I should be not bad. Yeah. So when there is an inequity, we will make one of the 6 choices that you're seeing over here. It's either you compare with other people, you change your input. Changing your input is the very common reaction, because if you find yourself not rewarded in an equal way by your company, then you will put in less effort. Yeah, so that is changing input. You can also change your outcome. Changing your outcome means that you continue to work, but whatever that you produce is just you're just looking through, you just glance through, you didn't really focus on it. Or you can also compare with other people, change a comparison. And the last one, the last reaction is to leave the field, because you feel that this field is not for you. Yeah, you change to a new company. So when employees have this kind of inequity, usually they will have this kind of responses. And of course, in terms of equity, we can link it to a broader discussion of organizational justice. Justice means it's an overall perception of what is fair in the workplace. Yeah, what is equal and what is fair. So why are we still in the same organization for many years? Because obviously it is doing some form of justice to us. Our efforts are being rewarded. We do not perceive inequity. Maybe sometimes yes, but it's a give and take relationship. So of course, when we talk about organization justice, we can look into equity theory. We can look into a few areas of justice. One is a distributive justice, where it links to the outcome, the money. Is it equal? Second thing is the procedure. Is the procedure equal? And the last one is the interactional justice, whether your bosses treat you with equality. And this is very important, um, because interactional justice may cause a lot of sensitivity. Some people, they might find it very offensive when the bosses actually talk to them in a very rude way. So they might find that they are actually treated unfairly in terms of interactional justice. And of course, many when employees see that there's any unfairness in any of these areas of organization justice, they might want to look into certain ways leaving the organization. It can be substantial. There are some employees may go to the labor department to make a complaint because they find that the companies are not treating them equally. So many organizations wants to promote justice through a lot of videos, through a lot of values that is promoted in the company policy, in the company promotional video, because they want to actually attract more employees to work with them. So let me show you this example of a company to promote the justice and trust what they do. Yeah. So this company is quite interesting, and there's also a research that talks about why organization justice is important, why honesty and certain values like integrity is very motivating to the staff. So let me just show you. This video is from a very famous talk series. So it talks about this is what make the employee happy at work. Yes.
If people are working, we've surveyed. And what we know in terms of their happiness, workers all want the same things. There's 3 billion working people in the world, and about 40% of them would say they're happy at work. That means about 1.8 billion, or almost 2 billion people, are not happy at work. What does that do, both to those people and the organizations that they work in? Well, let's talk about money. Organizations that have a lot of happy employees have 3 times the revenue growth compared to organizations where that's not true. They outperform the stock market by a factor of 3. And if you look at employee turnover, it's half that of organizations that have a lot of unhappy employees. The miracle thing is you don't have to spend more money to make this happen. It's not about ping pong tables and massages and pet walking. It's not about the perks. It's all about how they're treated by their leaders and by the people that they work with. So I'd like to share a few ideas that create happy employees. Idea number 1. In organizations where employees are happy, what you find is 2 things are present: trust and respect. Leaders often say, we trust our employees, we empower our employees, and then when an employee needs a laptop, and this is a true example, 15 people have to approve that laptop. So for the employee, all the words are right, but 15 levels of approval for a $1,500 laptop, you've actually spent more money than the laptop on the approval. And the employee feels maybe they're really not trusted. So what can an organization do to have a high level of trust? The first organization that comes to mind is Four Seasons. They have magnificent properties all around the world. And their employees are told, do whatever you think is right when servicing the customer. To hand that trust to your employees, to do whatever they think is right, makes the employees feel great. And this is why they're known for delivering some of the best service in the world. Idea number 2, fairness. The thing that erodes trust in an organization faster than anything else is when employees feel that they're being treated unfairly. Employees want to be treated the same, regardless of their rank or their tenure or their age or their experience or their job category compared to anyone else. When I think about great organizations who get fairness right, the first organization that comes to mind is Salesforce. They found that men and women working in the same job with the same level of proficiency were making different amounts of money. So immediately they calculated the difference and they invested $3 million to try and balance things out. Idea number 3 is listening. So to be a listener who connects with all types of people, we have to unlearn a few things. We've all been taught about active listening and eye contact, an intense stare, and a compassionate look. That's not listening. Repeating what the person says, that's not listening. Being humble and always hunting and searching for the best idea possible, that's what listening is. And employees can feel whether you're doing that or not. They want to know when they talk to you and share an idea, did you consider it when you made a decision? The one thing that everybody appreciates and wants when they're speaking is to know that what they say matters so much, you might actually change your mind. Otherwise, what's the point of the conversation? We all know the things we need to change, the things that we need to do differently. The way you behave, the way you treat others, the way you respond, the way you support defines the work experience for everyone around you. Changing to be a better person, the world is littered with those failures. But changing because there's something you believe in, some purpose that you have, where you're willing to risk almost everything because it's so important to you. That's the reason to change. If it's not, you should probably find a different place to work.
Yes, so yeah, it's a very interesting video, and you can see that listening is very important. Yeah, and also in obtaining approvals, there are many organizations that have a lot of level of approval, right? So when you want to just get through something, you can see that there are tons of approval that you have to go through. And it's just a very lengthy process. So in a way, I believe that this can also help to, if we reduce the level of hierarchy in a company, you can see that employees can also feel more comfortable to get their things done and to complete whatever that they have to do. So in a way, when we talk about motivation, it may come in various ways. In terms of happy employees, you can see that there are many ways to make them happy, and that is why we constantly want to look for a lot of researchers, and these inputs may actually help us to create more motivation. And of course, what are some of the implications of motivation? It can help the company to increase job engagement. So when we talk about job engagement, is the investment of an employee time into the job performance. So maybe over the weekend, you still continue to do your job because you feel that it's your responsibility. You channel a lot of energy into your job. So when we have some form of job engagement, it is good for the company. But if it's used in a very aggressive way, in a very if you have too much of it, it's also not good, because there are researchers that say if you have too much of something is not good, right? So we need to maintain our work-life balance as well. It always have a dark side. If we have too much of a job engagement, you may have higher instances on work family conflict. Yeah, so you cannot have too much of job engagement as well. When it's time to spend time at home, then we need to really put away our work. And of course, like I said, if we put together all the contemporary theories of motivation, each of them have some form of resemblance to each other. Each of them is quite related to each other, because contemporary theories take into account some of the recent ideas, recent knowledge, and the recent situations of employees. So if we look at this is the expectancy theory, and if we combine it with efficacy theory, social learning theory, and organizational justice, each of these are actually related to one another. So last but not least, of course, when we talk about motivations, we always want to look at how we can inspire our employees to achieve the goals, but we cannot set the difficult at too difficult goals, which is out of control, because it might lead your employee to commit unethical acts. We might always need to handle with care in certain aspects. For example, job engagement. Yeah, you ask your staff to work on a weekend, overtime. If it's really too tired, then that will actually cause them to have a job burnout. So there are many ways that organizations can actually take care of their employees. May sometimes not only in the monetary form, but it can also be in the form of job redesign or job organization. So with that, we have come to the end of the presentation for motivation. All right, so this is the end for the motivation topic. And of course, the next topic that we are discussing over here is on group behavior. Okay, group behavior. So group behavior is again very interesting, because organizations actually function as a large group. We function as a large entity. We function as a cohesive organization. So there are many organizations that strive their best to come up with high performance team, high performance groups, to enable the groups to attract more talent to work with them. So I would like to share with you this video from the very famous Jack Ma. It is very interesting that he mentioned this before in 3 years ago in the World Economic Forum. So he mentioned that, very interesting, he says that he always tried to find people that's smarter than him. Yeah, and let's look at what he actually said, and it's very interesting. He says that you don't have to be smart to be successful, and you need to use the people or use your team to actually help you to be more successful. So let's take a look at this.
I was the first. I know nothing about technology. I know nothing about management. I know nothing about. But the only thing is that you don't have to know a lot of things. You have to find the people who are smarter than you are. For so many years, I always try to find the people who are smarter than I am. And when you find so many smart people, my job is to make sure the smart people can work it together. And then if smart people can work it together, it's easier. The vision will believe. Because if stupid people can work together easily, smart people can never work together. When you are 20 to 30 years old, you should follow a good boss, join a good company to learn how to do things properly. When you're 30 to 40 years old, if you want to do something yourself, just do it. You still can afford to lose, to fail. But when you're 40 to 50 years old, my suggestion is that you should do things that you are good at. Right? Not do things that, oh, that's very interesting, I want to try something new. It's a bit dangerous more. When you're 50 to 60 years old, spending time training and developing young people, the next generation. When you're over 60 years old, better stay with your grandchildren.
Yeah, so I find this very interesting as well because yeah, it's interesting to look at 52, 50 to 60. We can actually start training the next generation, right? And also do some community work and to focus on developing the young generations. Yeah, because they are the ones that's going to be going out to the workforce and they're going to be the skilled labor. So it's very important that at different age cohort in our life, I think that's what proposed by Jack Ma and is also very interesting. And that leads us to our discussion today. Basically, I would like to continue to talk about the effects of having groups. Yeah, what is the effect of having groups? So, we will look into what is the meaning of groups and we talk about the different types of groups as well. So we have formal group and we have informal group. So formal groups are those that's defined by the organization structure. So you can see that every company you definitely have your organization structure which depicts the senior management, the CEO, the middle managers, and also the operational managers. And that is actually classified as a formal group. And informal groups are alliances that are neither formally structured nor organizationally determined, which means that in a company, we also form informal groups because these groups are basically the ones that we can talk to. Yeah, you definitely have a few colleagues that is your favorite that share the same interests that you have. So that is basically informal groups. And informal groups may also have a huge influence on the company because depending on which group that you follow, there are some point of time when some pressure is coming in from a large informal group. Then that might actually cause certain companies to devise their policy or devise certain strategic targets to align the interests of the employees and also the company. So informal groups may come in very influential if they're in a large group. Yeah. So, but essentially, we're looking at a group as two or more individuals coming together to achieve a particular objective. Of course, we look into groups, each of us as individuals, we tend to have this tendency to consider ourselves as in members of groups. Yeah, so we don't really operate in isolation as far as working behavior is concerned. So, the social identity theory explains this very well because this psychologist called Henry Tachful from Polish and John Turner, they found out that when they look at individuals, they see that we always want to be part of a group. We always want to be part of the member of an organization or member of a society because social identity theory explains and the findings are found very clearly when we look into a very simple football match. Yeah. When the team that is winning, the spectators are cheering so loudly, they are holding banners, flags, and you can see some of the spectators' emotional reaction, right? The emotional reaction will follow the winning team. And yet, we are actually the spectators. We are not the ones that is the player in the game. But why do we feel that we are elated? We are so happy. We are jumping, screaming, we are hugging each other in the stadium. So this findings is very clearly associated to the social identity theory because he says that when we actually love our football team, we consider ourselves as part of them. Yeah, so their winning is like our winning. So that is why individuals tend to cheer and they will be very happy, jumping here and there in the stadium, and people have emotional reactions to the failure or the success of their group. Yeah, when the team is actually losing, right? Why you can see that some of the spectators they cry, they cry, yeah, because of their favorite team loss, and they start scolding harsh words. They start beating up each other sometimes when they get drunk. So because we feel like we belong to the football team. So, social identities help us to explain who we are and where we fit in with these people. So, each of us, we have a social identity. We consider ourselves belonging to certain groups. As you can see in the world, we have a few largest religion, right? We have a few largest religion. We have Buddhism, we have Christianity, we also have some other religions in the world. And of course, not mentioning some religions which are not approved, which is not approved by the world. Yeah, so it's like a cult. But why these people can actually be immersed in this kind of religions until sometimes it may actually be haywire. Sometimes it may go wild, and we do something that is out of our moral emotions. Is because each of us as individuals, we want to belong. We want to belong to the religion. We want to belong to a certain group. And this is actually explained in the social identity theory. Each of us, we want to maintain our presence in our religion or in our belief or even in our company. So that is why recently I actually watched this documentary on cult. Yeah, and I find it a very relevant to the social identity theory because I feel that why there are so many movements in the world that is unapproved religions that actually emerge as a cult, and governments are trying very hard to crack down all these cults because they are actually spreading a lot of incorrect ideology and propaganda. So in the US as well, if you have paid attention, there are many cults. Yeah. So when we talk about cults, it's basically also creating a religion that is unapproved, but you have large groups of people following them. Yeah, and they feel like they belong to this cult, which is doing something that is wrong. Yeah, and they believe in a deviated religion. So this kind of cult is also a very influential power in many countries, especially in the US. Yeah, and of course, they actually trace back to why a country may have cults. Is because back then in the in the 1960s, 1970s, when America was actually a country that focuses on industrialization. They wanted to open up their economies to people who have talent, to come up with automation or to come up with steam engines or stuff like that. So at that point of time, it was also opening up their country to a lot of new ideology and new religions. So, like you and me, we can actually go to a particular state in America and we can start up our religions. So, there were a lot of self proclaimed prophets, a lot of self proclaimed God that actually go into an area in the US and they said that I am the Messiah of God. So, you have to listen to me because the God has actually assigned me to talk to you. Yeah, so that is why these people are in fact, they are very intelligent people. Yeah, they are very intelligent people because they saw the opportunity in this opening. They saw the opportunity for them to gain control. And obviously, these people are narcissists. They want to control people and they want to get famous. Of course, when it comes to this kind of cult, there's always a lot of deceiving involved. There's a lot of manipulation involved. Yeah, usually they will use the followers for certain reasons. Cults have existed since the 1960s. They have boomed into so many different types of cults. And not only in the US, in India, in so many countries, there's so many cults. And you can see that all these peoples, they share a very simple um, idea, which is they say that they are the Messiah of God. Yeah, they are prophets, or they are the assigned people who is assigned by the God. Yeah, and even in Korea, you can see that there's the Moonies. They say the Moonies, right? The Moonies is actually one of the largest cults in the Korea as well. Yeah, and you can see people are gathering in the stadiums. They are cheering for the old man. They are cheering for him and they are so happy to see him. So all these things can actually relate back to social identity because people want to feel belong. We want to feel that we are part of something. So that is why it gave a way for all these cults to spread at a very increasing rate, especially now with the technology advancement. You can see that many cults or many political movements have actually emerged at a rate that we can't really explain. Yeah, and of course you can see that yesterday itself we have the ISISK. Yeah, so this is again a new, a very extremist group, right? That actually they can do all these sort of things that can harm the peace and the society. So in many ways, a lot of social researcher, they are very interested to know why people can actually engage themselves and completely be absorbed in a particular group. Yeah, because they wanted to know, are these people really stupid or are these people they are brainwashed or what happened to them? So this comes back to our social identity theory because each of us we want to feel belong. Yeah, we want to feel like we are part of the company. We want to feel that we are wanted. Yeah, so that is why it may lead us to engage in many ways to promote certain cults and all that sort of thing. So, of course, my discussion here has deviated a bit, but what I'm trying to say is that the social identity theory is very relevant in our society and it helps us to understand who we are and where do we fit in. So each of us, we have our own social group, right? We have maybe the exercise group, we have our working group, we have our line dancing group. So all these are actually social identity because we consider ourselves as members of the group. And of course, when we have a group, there is an in group, there is an out group. Yeah, in group means is the people that share the same interests with us, is our group. Yeah, so there will also be people that doesn't share the same interest with us. It's called the out group, right? So that's why when there is a cult, for example, the in-group people, they will always see themselves as better than the others. Their religion is the best. Then anything out from them is actually disaster. Anything out from them is wrong because of in-group favoritism. Yeah, in our group, we see each other as very very friendly. We are cohesive as a team. But when there's someone that's out from your group, you see them as an outcast, something that is not aligned to your group. So when there is these two things, there will be a lot of issue when it comes to managing groups. And you can also see that in many instances, whereby the US police, right? The US police, when they ask the people to stop their car, right? Then when they see the black, then they will, there will be a lot of problem coming up. Yeah, because the police and the black, they see themselves, one is in group, one is out group. So many times the police are being perceived as they're actually trying to control someone. They're trying to maintain control. They're trying to maintain peace. And the out group is usually like the black, whereby they will push them to the ground. They will ask them to pull over their car and all that sort of thing that come up. So groups, in groups and out groups can create a lot of conflict because we see members of our group better than other people. We see the police as something because they are capable of maintaining control. And the out groups are usually the ones that is marginalized because they are quite different from the in groups. Yeah, so that is why there will be a lot of problems when it comes to groups. But of course, we also want to look at when we are the outsider. Yeah, when we are the outsider, there's always a social identity threat. We always feel that the outsiders are marginalized and the in groups are the ones that's always bullying the outsider. So there's always this social identity threat because individuals believe that they will be treated negatively. Sometimes the story may not be that way, but when people who are in the out groups, they will feel that they are devalued, they are being marginalized, they may lose confidence and performance effectiveness. So sometimes certain stories may seem like the police is actually beating the black, but sometimes the story, if we understand it at a different angle, then there could be certain problems because the blacks are always the one that seem as being bullied. Yeah, because of they felt like they are socially different, right? They're socially different in the society. So in a way, when we actually create groups in a company, temporary groups will usually go through certain stages before they can actually come up with a great performance. So the punctuated equilibrium model actually explains the series of steps that a temporary group will actually go through. Usually the first meeting, they will orientate and understand each other. And then in the middle, sometime there will be some arguments before they complete the task because that is actually the way high effective groups function. Yeah. So temporary groups will usually go through this, and in some books they also talk about the formation of groups. We always have the forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. The 5 stages are basically the stages that groups will usually go through. Yeah. So at some point of time in certain groups, we will also have a lot of argument, and this is known as the transition period in a well-functioning group. Okay, the punctuated equilibrium model. And of course, in order for us to create an effective group, we need to know what are the components of a group. Yeah, why we need to understand about the components? Because by knowing the components, we are able to design a high performance groups. Yeah, and in many companies, groups are very important. Groups may lead to successful teams. Groups may help the companies to achieve a lot of successful projects, and it can demonstrate that it's the best place to work for. So in the groups, we will look at a few different properties. So we call them the group properties. Yeah. So the first property is role. Yeah. So when you want to create a group, role is an expected behavior pattern in a social unit. You need to tell the person what is your role in this group. Is your role a leader? Is your role a follower? Or is your role a member? So, because when you assign the person as a leader, the person will definitely have a role perception, what a leader should do in a given situation. And of course, with role perception, the other followers will also have an expectation on the leader. They will rely on the leader. So that is how psychological contract is formed. Why a company, usually we will have manager and we will have a leader and then we will have the follower. Because with this kind of role expectation, you can see that there is a psychological contract, which means we understand that our manager is always supporting us. Yeah, psychological contract means it's a contract that is not written, but this is a contract that explains how you give and take with your boss. Yeah. So psychologically, you know that this person will support you. So with a clear role expectations and role perception, you can see that psychological contract is enhanced. And then you need to make sure that everyone knows what is their expected behavior pattern. And of course, if the roles are unclear, if people expect more than you and you can't deliver that, there will be a role conflict because some of the time we play different roles in our life. Yeah, when we are at work, we are manager, but when we go home, we are housewife. So there could be role conflict where situation is a situation where individual face divergent roles. Divergent roles means different roles. So there are sometimes role conflict may cause a very poor work performance because we are we are constantly juggling with a lot of work in the workplace, and at the same time when we go home we need to become a housewife, a mother, and cooking, cleaning, this, all these things can take a toll on a person's mental ability. So when there's a role conflict, it's something not good for the individual. And that is why role perceptions and role expectations are very important when someone is managing a group or you're managing a particular social unit. And the next one is basically role play and assimilation. So at some point of time, there are lots of researchers. They want to know why certain CEO can be so aggressive. Why some CEO, when they're at home, they're not like that. Why some CEO in the office, they scold people with 4-letter words, 6-letter, 8 letters, and they are so angry all the time. They want to maintain, they are the boss, I'm the boss, you better listen and listen to my instruction. So they actually found out that in the past there was a researcher. His name is called Zimbardo. Yeah, his name is called Zimbardo, and he wanted to know why roles are important and why some CEO in the workplace they can become so aggressive. Yeah, and they can become so fierce and so angry. It's because they assimilate the role. I'm the boss, I'm the boss, so you should listen to me. My face must be fierce. So they kind of absorb their role until it becomes like it's them. Yeah. So the very interesting finding about Zimbardo is that he's a very famous psychologist as well. So he wanted to know what is the importance of roles and how individuals assimilate them. Assimilate means absorb them. So he found out a very interesting finding. And he says that whatever roles that we play in an organization, we will absorb it, yeah, very quickly. And we will tend to perform just what the role expect us to do. Like, for example, you expect a doctor to be very serious, you expect a CEO to be fierce. So, Zimbabwe prison experiment has opened up to more researchers on the importance of role. So, why is it called a prison experiment? Because he did the experiment in the prison. Yeah, he did an experiment in the prison. He had two groups of students. So one group is the prisoner and one group is the prison guard. Yeah, so he put them in the prison in Stanford University, and then both groups have actually uh, played their roles. One is the prison guard, one is the prisoner. So the prison guards was actually students, but in 1 week after that, wow, they tend to perform like they are really a real prison guard. They tend to take sticks and they beated the prisoner, and the prisoner also kept quiet as if they are real prisoner. And this is very different from their real personality as a student. And somehow um, he wanted to conduct this experiment for a longer time. But because of the torture and the suffer that the prisoners experience from the prison guards, he called off the experiment. And he was really surprised to find out that the prison guards acted in a very different way from their personality. And what happened is that the prisoners were also very, they also assimilate the roles, and they were very defenseless. They just continue to follow what they're supposed to do, forgetting that they're actually in an experiment. So his research was criticized, but it also opened up to a lot of research about role play, and that tells us why roles are very important. Yeah. And many times we are too assimilated in the role until we forget our own personality. Yeah. So um it's like we said 走火入魔. Yeah. So that's why there are sometimes when we are at work, we need to perform our roles, but when we are at home, we need to actually put away our works, because sometimes we may use the roles that we play in our work and take it home and apply it on our kids or on our relationship or our spouses. So that can cause a lot of conflict. So what Zimbardo found was very interesting. Yeah. And after that, a lot of researchers criticized him. Yeah. And again, he was also well noted in the areas of role, because what he found out actually opens up to the understanding of why CEOs are so angry, why CEOs' faces are so aggressive. Yeah, because they assimilate the role. Yeah. And the next one is norms. The next group property is norms, whereby we talk about acceptable standard of behavior. So in a group, actually, we need to tell the members what are the norms. Norms means it's like the rules and regulations. Yeah. So positive norm may actually lead to positive result. Negative norms, negative um, regulations or negative way of doing things may lead to a negative performance. So he says that many groups, right, sometimes they make a decision not because of something that they want. It's because they follow the majority. Even though you don't agree with the group, but because of group pressure, you follow. And that shows that how norms may exert an influence on an individual behavior. So another researcher made a very interesting finding, and his name is called Solomon Ash. Yeah, so Solomon Ash is very interesting guy because in 1955 he wanted to know what are the influences of group pressure on individual decision. So he did an experiment. He says that in this group of experiment, he actually had one or two actors, okay, a few actors and a few real students. So, but he did many times of this experiment. So he actually asked the participants in the experiment the length of X. All right, is the length of X the same with A, B, or C? Yeah, so he asked this question, and obviously the control group says that X looks like the same length with B, right? It's the same length, I mean, from our vision. So the control group gave all the correct answer, okay? And the experiment group has a very interesting finding because remember the experiment group, there is some actor in there, right? So the first actor says, I think X is the same length as A, the first actor, okay? And then the second actor also said, X is the same as A. And everyone was actually looking at the first and the second respondent, and they felt like, how come? Because X is actually the same length as B. But because of the group pressure, so many people was there and each of them said that X is the same length as A. They had no choice, but they said, yeah, I think X is the same as A in order to go along with the group, even though they know obviously their answer is wrong. So Ash study tells us that in a group meeting, why there are many decisions that is made to follow according to the group, but it may not represent our own opinions because group pressure or norms can influence an individual's decision. So that is what was found in the Ash study. So that is why a lot of cults also use the idea of Ash study to use the group to pressure the new follower. So when you go to the meeting, the group leader will actually indoctrinate you with their new teaching and all that. So they will use the group to pressure you, the new follower, to comply to the teaching of the cult. Yeah, so and this is very influential because it might change a person's behavior. And at the end of the day, the new follower will follow what is the cult's teaching and will look at the out group as something that is very damaging. Yeah, so that is why norms have a huge influence on individual behavior. But if we look at the company point of view, positive norm can be actually good because it can help the group to achieve a very positive outcome. And of course, if negative norm can influence a lot of things that may cause defiant workplace behavior, such as leaving early, sabotage, or gossiping. Yes, so negative norms is not good. Yeah. And of course, norms and culture may have some relationship in different countries. Different countries, we have different norms and different ways of working. So that is why people may actually experience different norms in different countries as well. And of course, when we talk about groups, we also talk about status. Yeah. Why certain groups they have a higher status than the other, and why certain groups they have a lower status. So these come from the status characteristic theory. Status characteristic theory says that when a person has more power than the others, right? They will be viewed as respectable. Yeah. So in the groups, status is very important as well. And of course, status may lead to a lot of performance because it may lead to group interaction, inequity, and stigmatization. Stigmatization means certain groups that are associated with certain social stigma, like, for example, they view women as less capable. So, status may actually have an influence on certain social stigmas which may affect group performance. And of course, we also look at the group size. Size is important. When you have a large group, they are good for opinions. When you have a smaller group, they are good to achieving the outcome. Of course, we want to manage the group size because it will lead to the group overall behavior. And when there's something bad, they will tend to commit a lot of social loafing. Social loafing means is the tendency for individual to spend less effort on working. Yeah. So if you have a large group, then you have to manage it well because if you don't manage it well, it may resort to social loafing. So we also look at cohesiveness. Why certain groups they want to maintain cohesiveness, like I said, to show videos of how well they're working in an organization. So recently this industry has achieved a lot of losses. The industry is the airline industry. So there are many ways they try to bond the employees together and to make them cohesive because when there is high level of cohesiveness and positive norm, you can see that there is high productivity. When the team is not strong, and there is a negative norms, you can see that there is a low productivity. So how AirAsia actually show that they have a very cohesive team is through a lot of media, social media sharing, and also videos. So let me show you recently in AirAsia Indonesia, they have this series of all stars at your service. Yeah, so this is actually to show that their employees are all stars. Their employees are all very important to the company. Even though the company is suffering a lot of losses, they still regard their employees as valuable as all stars. So you can see that they have this video over here just to show how they are continuing their businesses in other areas. Yeah, and featuring a very happy employee. So let me show you a little bit about this.
Na tiyak magbibigay pag-asa hanggang tuluyan tayong makabangon. Welcome to All Stars at your service.
Humbling experience. Ganyan ilarawan Princess ng All-Star natin mula sa customer happiness ang kanyang journey ngayong may pandemic.
Mula sa pagiging flight dispatcher at piloto, ang bago niyang mission ngayon, pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng pasahero online.
Let's get to know All-Star Clint Tolentino at your service.
Hi everyone! Ako si All-Star Clint Tolentino at kasama ko ang buong Customer Happiness Team at your service!
nandito ako ngayon sa dorm ko, kung saan ako nag-stay, malayo sa pamilya. Halo-halo kami dito, may mga piloto, may
Yes, we might not understand what they're saying, but essentially the idea of the video is to show a very cohesive team. Yeah, like the team is still continuing to be together as one, as all stars in AirAsia. Yeah, so this is something that the company is actually trying to promote to the public because group cohesiveness can actually link to higher productivity as well. And as you can see in the video, they are very diverse employees. They have from different race, different gender, different culture. So, but diversity is good in a way. You can have a lot of opinions. But when you have more people in the group, there will be more group conflict and there will also be more fault lines. Fault lines means like dividing the group into two or more subgroup. Yeah, which is sometimes may be good, sometimes may be bad for an organization performance. So of course, the group decision making, we can see that there are strength. You can have more complete information, acceptance of solution. But the weaknesses is very time consuming and group pressure will actually have a few dominant few members. So there are some that doesn't sound anything because they are actually pressured by the group. So these are some of the disadvantages of a group decision making. But of course, how do we define that a group is effective and efficient is through the accuracy and the speed of making decision. So there are certain situations where the group pressure is actually causing the team to look into a very common decision. So that situation is called groupthink. Because of group pressure, they come up with a very common decision. So the common decision may not upset anyone. It may be representing the group, but it may not represent the individual idea. And the group decision making may also have another byproduct, which is group shift. Group shift means the decisions may be very extreme. Yeah, the decision may be totally like not what you're supposed to do. For example, in 1961, the US actually invaded the Bay of Pigs. Yeah, the Bay of Pigs is actually one of the failed invasion by the Eisenhower administration. As the US, they used to go and invade a lot of people, a lot of countries before. So in this Bay of Pigs invasion, it wasn't a decision that they want to make, but again, the Kennedy administration actually accepted it. Yeah, and they even go and bomb the Pearl Harbor, right? So a lot of these decisions may not represent Eisenhower or may not represent the individuals, but because of that, they made a very extreme decision that affect the entire country. Yeah, which was also one of the failed invasions, just like how they went into Vietnam, and also the latest one was Afghanistan, right? So that's why group decisions may actually cause a change between the group decision and individual decision. And of course, the last slide over here, many group decision making takes place in interacting groups. So we always want to focus on a lot of interaction to make sure that the team is continuously communicating and to be able to voice out their opinions. Yeah, that is how we can actually make sure that the groups is an interacting group. All right, so we will actually stop our discussion over here today. And of course, if you have any questions, you can also ask me. And we will not continue further because there will be more continuing discussions on the areas of groups. Yeah, what is the meaning of brainstorming? Yeah, so we will also talk about that in the next week. in the next week. So any questions so far, ladies and gentlemen? We will talk about more on the Bay of Pigs. I think it's a very interesting thing. I will share with all of you in the next class. Yeah. So any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question, teacher, doctor.
Yes.
Good morning. About the group assignment. So when shall we hold the present?
Oh, presentation?
Yes.
Yeah,
presentation.
because this semester the presentation is not required and it's not graded. So yeah, we would not need to have that. But if we have time, then you can actually present to us what you have done. Yeah, but that is not the requirement of the course.
So we only submit it based on the we only submit the file to the system is okay, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. 如果你们要分享也是可以，没问题。我很喜欢听，因为你们看到我很久了，我要看你们。对吗？你们看到我很久了啦。
有啊，我们经常关注你啊，抖音啊，这个各种。
很开心，谢谢你们，请保持联络。
你们那边也可以开抖音的吗？你们那边是叫 TikTok 吗 ？TikTok。
我们有两种，一个是那个 TikTok， 一个是抖音。
还不一样是吧？它是
不一样的。TikTok 是那个好像应该是有开到去印尼啊，有种种的，但是
国际版，那就是抖音的国际版，那有可能是。
对。
抖音就是就是内地版，
中国版的，那个比较好看。
你是用的哪个吗？平时？
我是用那个中国版的，因为我有很多中国的朋友嘛，你们。
主要也可以学一下中文是吗？
对，我看到很多每一天也是在那边扫。
那个很花时间的，太。
对，扫到我的这里也痛了。我要买那个棍，我有看到
按摩仪。
那个不是按摩仪，按摩仪太贵了，要买那个一支棍。好像那个刮痧的那个棍。
有那个滚珠的哈。
对，我看他们刮这里好像不错。好，还有什么东西问吗？
我这边没有了。
好啦，然后就现在我们要结束啦，你们也是要去吃午餐啊，对不对？等一下还有课嘛。等一下还有课，对不对？
对，等会儿还有。
OK， 好。好，然后我就祝你们周末愉快。等一下慢慢就去听课啦，吃饱不要睡觉。最后一节课
了，还有点舍不得了，那以后怎么办呢？
我看到你们的那个时间表真的是整天，然后还有那个不会讲汉语的那个，对不对？你们的那个是不是那个讲师，对不对？
没有，对。我不知道你们是每个老师都必须要会讲汉语吗？你们应聘的时候，还是说是有没有这个要求？
应该他们的玛莎的不是全部会讲的。
因为我看有些老师他还不是你们学校的编制，他在其他学校任课，但是只不过临时过来。
对，好像我不是，我是part time 了，part time。
part time 呀，
要赚钱嘛，我有动力，因为我要去买东西。
可以，这样挺好的，资源共享嘛，不要浪费资源了嘛，这么好的资源。
现在疫情也是一样的用钱啊，对不对？
就是。
OK， 我不要不要再烦你们了，讲东西讲了3个钟，讲很久了。
没有，你才辛苦了，真的。
没有，今天我有6个钟。等一下。
那你平时周末基本上这白天时间都牺牲了。
对对，但是我们的课程是到9月罢了嘛，对不对？然后过了那个9月就没有啦。
Free time。
对 ，it's free time，可以去看抖音，慢慢的看。Okay, so thank you very much. I wish all of you are very motivated now. Continue the motivation, and thank you very much, Mr. Ho. Stay safe. Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
See you next week.
See you.
See you, doctor.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye, doctor. See you.